Hey, what's up, guys? This is Touchline. Make sure my mic is on. Anyways, what we have tonight is it's pretty much the entire off season's gonna be in one giant show today, and only because a big portion of the off season has already been dealt with. The only things that's still left to be dealt with is tomorrow they'll go through a waiver draft, and then they'll have another window of free agency, and then not free agency, a trading window, then another waiver draft. The common theme with MLS is draft after draft after draft after draft after draft. They like to do drafts. It gets annoying, but hey, that's what it is. First thing we need to start with is actually the idea of, there's a lot of news that's come out. I'm going to try to hit as much of it as I can. Try to dedicate an hour of this, hour and a half, whatever it takes to get through a lot of this. First thing I want to go through is, first, congrats to the Los Angeles Galaxy on winning their 5th title, sending Landon Donovan out in style. Any of you guys that have watched the show, especially when I talk about the national team, you realize I'm not a huge fan of Landon, but I know what Landon did for this country, what he did for this sport, what he did in everything. And so it's kind of nice to see everything that he's done. Something that I think we all kind of ignore the fact on is Landon Donovan. He's been to the other side of the pond, and he's played in Europe and everything like that, but he always seems to come back to MLS. I think that's more or less, it shows the type of player he was, because he would always come out and play for the United States. He would always come out and play for the MLS. He was committed to building this. Going forward, I wouldn't be surprised if we see Landon Donovan in a kind of like an Eddie Pope role. Eddie Pope is now the players director of the MLS Players Union. I wouldn't be surprised to see Landon go into something like that, maybe working for the front office of the MLS. I wouldn't be surprised if they asked him to be a general manager somewhere. So, personally, I don't like Landon. One of my favorite moments was watching MLS win the MLS Cup, and watching Landon take that PK and sell it over. Next thing I wanted to jump into, if you guys can't tell, I'm kind of avoiding how RSL season ended. You kind of don't want to see something like that happen. It's more or less one of those out of sight, out of mind. I'm not going to look at it and see what it was and go back and read through it and try to figure out what's going on and everything, because honestly, that was last season. There's nothing we can learn from it, because the team is going to be it's going to be a totally different team come next year. We lost a few players. We gained one player. I think the biggest part that the first thing that shocked me, we knew going into the expansion draft that we was going to lose 2 players. And then we found out on Monday that who we were going to protect. We were protecting Nick Rimando, Tony Beltran, Chris Schuler. A little weird protecting only 2 defenders when generally you start 4. Then we have Kyle Beckerman, Luke Mulholland, Luis Gil, Javier Morales. I like that core as a midfield. I know a lot of the guys aren't big on Luis playing on that outside, but I liked it. I like Gil playing. I think Gil has a lot to prove. Personally, I thought we would leave Javier Morales unprotected. And the only reason I think they could do that is they could get away with it. It wasn't a slap in the face to Javier or anything like that. Javier's a little bit older. Javier has that designated player contract, and so it would be very easy to turn around and leave him unprotected and see if an Orlando or New York City took a shot at selecting him and having to renegotiate. And because of the type of player he is, he's going to have to take a designated player contract on. And so I wasn't sure if they would select him or if they would kind of stay away from him because of the money they'd have to pay. After that, RSL kind of shocked me by saving 4 strikers. I personally figured they'd save 3. The 3 that I figured they saved, they did, and Sebastian Jaime, Joao Plata, and Alvaro Saborio. And then they protected Omez Garcia. Personally, I think they protected Omez Garcia because Carlos Caicedo, he sent a letter out over Twitter pretty much saying that the club had lied to him, had lied to his dad about certain obligations, and now he was asking to be released from his contract. And so I believe a situation like that doesn't happen, that he's protected. Because of a situation like that, I felt they felt like they needed to leave him unprotected, see if a team would take a chance on him. And so they protected a guy like Omez Garcia. Omez, I don't think on this team he's a starter, but what I do love is, that 65, 70th minute players are starting to get slowed down, starting to tire out, especially in the altitude in Utah. And you send in a fresh speedster like Omez Garcia, and he wreaks havoc. Hopefully they're able to get more out of him next year. I'm hoping they do. So the first thing that happened that kind of shocked us, I'm going to say it shocked us all, is we found out on Monday, well, it became official on Monday that Nat Borchers was traded to the Portland Timbers for allocation money. It kind of sucks because, especially with the fact that we only protected 2 defenders and then we shipped out another starter. The only thing I really love about RSL in this situation is Garth Lagerwey did come out and he told everybody, we have 3 teams that are looking at Nat Borchers. I mean, they called up teams, they said, hey, listen, Nat's available. 3 teams came back and said, okay, this is what we're going to offer. And RSL liked the offers, and they actually went to Nat and said, hey, listen, this is what we're going to have to do for the business. We can't protect you. We know you're going to be gone and out. We'd like to at least get something for you. Nat didn't really want to go, and he wanted to stay, and from the sounds of it, he was all game. He was up to doing whatever to stay. But they let Nat decide. Nat chose Portland. He'll reunite with Will Johnson. Some of the coolest pictures I've seen the past few days is Nat Borcher holding that Portland timber axe. It's been kind of fun to see that, but it's also sad because you know that he's gone and that he'll be playing there. Then the expansion draft took place. No surprise, Jason Kreis took 2 Real Salt Lake players, 2 Real Salt Lake players from his time. And I think that what we kind of need to realize from this is Jason wanted RSL guys, and you can tell that. And I remember reading in a article somewhere, or it might have been on Twitter, that right before the draft started, that Jason Kreis had a text message already ready to hit send on to Nat that said, have your bags packed and get in shape. The minute that they took somebody else, they took Donovan Ricketts in the first round, that he sent off that text message and kind of told him, hey, listen, you're coming back here. You're coming with us. It's kind of heartbreaking to know that a guy like Nat is leaving. Nat was that reliable guy that you could have. Nat really didn't have I mean, not Ned Grabavoy. He really didn't have an off game, and it was kind of nice to see him do that. He was a fun guy to watch. The only time he actually ever really sat was during there at the very end of his RSL career, and that's when he was sick, and he sat there on the roster, still suited up. He could go, but they asked him to sit because of how he was feeling. I'm going to try to see if I can get this to work. Okay, as you can see here, it shows you kind of how everybody selected. Orlando City selected first. They took Donovan Ricketts. Weird decision by them, only due to the fact that Donovan Ricketts, he's a good goalkeeper, but they had Tally Hall. Tally Hall's coming off of an injury, so I'm not sure how that affects things. A few things that kind of catch me off guard, and a few things that I like, a few things I don't like. Starting with Orlando. Arrieta, he's kind of an older striker, so if you're a team with an excess of strikers like an RSL, how we have 5 on roster right now, I'd consider calling up Orlando City and seeing what they would like to give up. Another one, a pick that I liked, is this Heath Pearce selection. Heath Pearce allows them to pair Heath Pearce with Collins there in the middle. Over here on New York City, Ned Grabavoy that's gonna hurt us, and so is this Chris Wingert pick. Mehdi Belushi. If you guys know anything about RSL lore, it's Mehdi Belushi was our guy, and then out of the blue we traded him to Colorado, to our rivals, and I remember a lot of RSL fans freaking out about it, wondering what did we do trading him off, and we ended up trading him off for Kyle Beckerman. And looking back at it now, that trade is so lopsided. It's so funny, just the way that it can do that. And I just remember during the expansion draft, as I was live tweeting it out and throwing out there's different things, somebody commented about, give Jason Kreis 6 months and he'll flip that Belushi pick for Kyle Beckerman. Now, personally, I don't think he'll do it because RSL's not going to let him go. But it just shows you the kind of person that Jason Kreis was and Garth Lagerwey was, that they saw talent and they were willing to give up some of their best talent to get talent. And hey, it paid off in this instance. There's a lot of times that Garth Lagerwey and Jason Kreis took huge risks and it paid off. So after that, it went straight into a trade window. Generally, you expect not to hear a whole lot of news from a trade window. It's just, with an expansion side, you're going to hear a lot more trade window stuff. But, with the normal clubs, they generally don't do anything. And what we learned is teams are a little bit more active this time around. Leading up to the expansion draft, there was a whole lot of trades that were basically being done. One was done not between an expansion side, and that was between the Revolution and the Colorado Rapids, swapping draft picks and some players. But everything past that point up until Monday was all expansion side, and then Sporting Kansas City later in the day and Philadelphia Union kind of got together, and Columbus Crew, and they started throwing things around. Then all of a sudden DC United and the Houston Dynamo all got together and started throwing things around. I think the biggest shocker that probably came out of it was the New York Red Bulls, we sent them allocation money and brought back Jamison Olave. Jamison is now 2 years older, and people are saying that he's slowed down. He's played a lot. He's not playing up to his standards that he was here at RSL and everything like that. And before people put out the judgment on Olave, let me say that don't give up on Olave. New York plays on turf. And I'm not sure how many of you guys have played soccer, but I played soccer. I played soccer, we had the natural grass field that we played on. And then, a few times a year, we'd have to travel and play games. One game that we usually hated to go play was against Juan Diego on their turf. And it's weird playing on turf. You just, when I was 14, I broke my ankle, and playing soccer, I really didn't get a whole lot of pain off of it or anything like that. But whenever I came off a turf, I would hurt for days. Turf is different. It beats up your body a lot different. I think Olave coming back to this grass setting, you might see a resurgence from him. So don't give up on Olave. I ain't saying he's going to go back to, MLS best 11 type player, but he's going to be fun to watch. So don't give up on him and just go with it. And then today I was listening to an interview on ESPN 700. The coach was on it, and he said he doesn't have a real timetable, but he pretty much says that there's deals out there with multiple players. He's just waiting on visas and other things to go through. The only one he could really announce is Abdoulaye Manseli is coming back. That's great for us. That adds to the defense that kind of is very, very depleted. Like I said here, in the next few weeks, I give it weeks. Don't expect something within the next couple days. Expect it within the next few weeks. RSL will announce a new player. They're just waiting for visas, legal things, and all that to go down. Give them time. They will take care of it. Other than that, no real big trades. I think, honestly, the Olave and the Borchers trade might be the two biggest trades to come out. Probably followed by Collins headed to Orlando. Like I said, pairing with Heath Pierce, that middle of that defense can get really scary. CJ Sapong heading to the Philadelphia Union is a nice one. Union gave up a first-round pick for him. But other than that, not a whole lot of big names are jumping back and forth. This off-season, there's a few things that we kind of need to be looking at and going forward. You're going to hear a lot of MLS news. What you're going to hear a lot of is the CBA negotiations, the collective bargaining agreement. At the end of January, it'll expire. One of the huge sticking points with them is the players' union feels that they can't be considered a big-time major program if the minimum salary is only $36,500 a year. So, of course, if players can make more sitting on the bench somewhere else, they're going to go, unless you're a guy that wants to play and you play for a lot less money. MLS kind of has this history where they don't want you guys to have a free agency and bidding for players and stuff. So they keep salaries down, they keep them structured, and so that's going to be a huge fight. you have some expansion coming up. Roughly about 10 years ago, about the time Real Salt Lake jumped in there, MLS was begging cities, come on, start a team. Come on, start a team. Now teams are different cities are showing up. Minneapolis is, they've put in a bid. Sacramento's put in a bid. You got Las Vegas, San Antonio, St. Louis. There's another Texas one. I want to say it was El Paso, but I'm not sure on that. But honestly, I think Sacramento gets that bid. Sacramento needs that bid. I've seen their organization kind of being ran on Twitter and everything like that. They're a smart team. They came in and played RSL, and they played RSL tough. I think they'd be a great addition to the MLS. Some other cool news that's come out is on Monday, the Mexican League president told the owners during the owners meeting that he would like to, as soon as 2016, start adding MLS teams to the Copa MX. I mean, they're going to have to figure out how to work CONCACAF Champions League and Copa MX plus MLS all at the same time. But I think it'd be really cool. You'd get a lot of teams playing. You'd get like that Tijuana, the Zolos that came a few months ago. You'd get games like that all the time. It'd be fun, travel into Mexico and play, especially with that United States versus Mexico rivalry that we have on the national team stage. Add in, the Mexican league similar to MLS and play. This comes on the heels as earlier this year, the South American region said they were going to consider start adding MLS teams to their tournaments down there. And so MLS is they're branching out, they're opening up, they're heading into new uncharted territories. And all it's going to do is keep this league strong and thriving and growing. And so it's going to be awesome to see. I hope they're able to pull it off. I'd love to go see, Club America and different teams come, other than the Champions League. It'd be fun. Another thing that's kind of that MLS has to handle in a delicate way is Frank Lampard. He is a member of the New York City Football Club. If you don't understand, a lot of these times when a club starts up, they'll have a parent club. This parent club will help them get up off the ground. They'll teach them how to run a soccer organization. They'll teach them how to scout. They'll teach them how to coach. And then they kick them out there and say, get you some. RSL had that. RSL had that with Real Madrid. Real Madrid was kind of there to be that parent to help raise them up, get them started, and then send them out on their own. New York City FC has that same thing in Manchester City. One of the first moves they did is they brought in Frank Lampard. To keep him in fit, they sent him out on a loan to Manchester City. During this time, he has been on a tear. He has looked impressive. 5 goals during his loan stint. It's not a long loan. Manchester City is now coming out saying, we want him for longer. MLS, they kind of was down this road before with Beckham when LA was sending him out to different clubs across the sea so he could play, and he was he was playing. Well, this time instead of LA and MLS saying, okay, Beckham, you have to come back, now they're telling him, hey, you have Manchester City can pretty much say, no, we have the leverage. We're the one teaching you how to run this organization. We're the one helping you. We're the ones funding you because they're actually also part owners. That there is a chance that you will not see Frank Lampard come to the States until, my guess is he'll miss most of the preseason, probably all the preseason and some league games. And so it'll be fun to see what they do. The two things I really love about the two expansion teams, is both of them have shown that they're willing to spend the money. And, New York City FC has brought in Lampard. They also brought in David Villa from Spain. He's going to be fun to watch. While Orlando brought in Kaká from Brazil. Those are 3 world-class players. And I know it's towards the end of their career and everything like that. It's going to be fun to watch them do it. It's another thing that's kind of fun is it's going to kind of build up that East Coast soccer love. I heard once that per capita that Utah has the most youth soccer players. Having these guys like this was going to do wonders. Look what David Beckham and Landon Donovan did to not only LA, but to the entire California, West Coast and everything like that. You bring in guys like a David Villa and a Lampard, and you bring them into a Kansas City, that stadium's going to sell out. You bring them into DC, that stadium's going to sell out. Without a doubt, it's going to sell out RSL. It's not going to sell out RSL because of those 2 names. It's going to sell out because, one, the fans are going to want to see Grabavoy again and Wingard again. But another thing is they want to see Jason Kreis one more time. With the arrival of New York and Orlando, they had to restructure everything. So Sporting Kansas City and Houston Dynamo went to the Western Conference. And then they, killed out Chivas, as we all know. And it kind of, everybody started looking at the West as this giant juggernaut. And then things started happening. Landon Donovan has now retired. I mean, they'll find another DP. It's without a doubt. San Jose has a new coach, so he's got to implement a new system. RSL has lost a good portion of their core. And by sending Borchers to Portland, Portland's defense got better. So now the West is, I still think, more dominant of the 2 sides, but they're a lot, I don't want to say weaker. It's a lot more leveled out now. So the West this year is going to be fun to see. Few questions that I was asked. First one was, we've completed 10 seasons. What have been your top moments? I'd have to say that winning the MLS Cup was a huge one. It was awesome sitting. I remember I was sitting at my dad's, and my family really doesn't love soccer. I'm the only one that really loves soccer. I mean, my brothers played it, but they quit the chance they had. They quit. And I remember sitting on the floor. My wife's sitting there playing on her phone. My parents aren't doing anything. We was at my parents' house because we didn't have cable or anything like that. We was just recently married. Sitting on the floor watching this MLS Cup. I just remember as soon as they hit that final PK, just how awesome of a feeling it was to know that one of my teams had done something miraculous and done something awesome like that, and being the only person in that house that was cheering And everybody was happy because I was happy, but I don't think they realized the magnitude of it. At the time, I don't think Utah realized the magnitude of it and how hard it was to pull that off. Now it's so much harder. That's a huge moment. Another huge moment I'd have to say is Champions League. How far we got in that and how close we got to succeeding and being the CONCACAF champions. And some of the memorable games that came out of that, going back to Costa Rica, taking Saborio back to the club that gave him a shot in Saprissa and beating them, going into Mexico and becoming almost the first team to beat a Mexican club in Mexico in that downpour rainy game. The following year when RSL brought out that third uniform, I know they don't tend to go away from the red jerseys, and if they have to, they go to their white jersey, but they brought out that gold jersey, and I really fell in love with that jersey. Some other big moments that, personally for me, watching Dunny score the first goal in Rice-Eccles Stadium, that was huge. Olave scoring the first goal. I'm trying to remember who scored it. It's probably been my all-time favorite game I've ever seen. It was April, I want to say. Yeah, it was April. Because I remember we went for my wife's birthday. Bought tickets to Real Salt Lake versus Seattle in 2010. First home game, they were going to unveil the banner that say we're champions. First time, huge celebration. And I remember playing Seattle, and they were playing Seattle tough. Seattle was playing us, and we was down 2-1 in stoppage. And Saborio scored an equalizer, 2-2 draw. It was huge. I mean, perfect. I mean, you wanted the win, but it was perfect. That was a fun time. So I'd have to say those were probably my favorite ones. I mean, I've been there for a few of them. I was there when they retired Jason Christ's number. I know that kind of went with some huge fanfare of people not liking it or whatever, but I think that was the right thing to do, just based off of everything he gave to us. So yeah, I'd say those are probably my top moments, only because of that personal bond they've had with me. My most recent favorite one, though, is this year when Sabo came off injury and he was in the game for a whole 30 seconds and scored a goal. Another question I was asked is what I think they're going to do with Carlos Salcedo. I'm hoping, a part of me is hoping, the reason that we protected him as quick as we did after they selected Grabavoy, that we selected Salcedo and we protected him. I want to say the reason that was done was to bring him back. I think they shipped out Borchers to make room for him. I know Olave coming back might muddle things up a bit, but I think they have faith in Salcedo to play anywhere on that back line. So I'm hoping that he comes back and does that. I'm hoping they can mend the fence. They can keep him coming. If not, I hope RSL sells him. But I don't want them to sell him to an MLS side. I don't want him traded to an MLS side. Um, the only thing that's going to make it tough is we're going to have to select his contract, and we're not going to be able to sell him until the start of the season, roughly around February. That transfer window will open up and we can start selling players, buying players and stuff. And so you can't really, I mean, anybody can probably call him up. We could probably send him out on loan onto a team that would like to see him, get some time with him, and then we could sell him to him when that transfer window opens up. But personally, I hope that they come in and we're able to pull them in and keep him on. He is impressive. I love to watch him play. I had a lot of fun watching him play against the Zolos and watching him play on TV and stuff like that. A lot of fun seeing all that. So I hope we're able to protect him, keep him on the roster, and all that. A few things I'm going to try to pull off here in the next little while is this is probably the last time I'm going to do a podcast like this on YouTube and done that way. I'm going to try to go to a more audio setting. Only because I'd like to be able to get it on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, everything, so it can get out there and get promoted. And so, this is probably the last time this is going to be done this way. Another thing I'd like to see is, here in the next few weeks, RSLs, other than maybe announcing a guy or two that's signed, they're going to be very, very quiet. And that's just natural of MLS. During their off-season, teams are very quiet. They don't like to even announce how much players' contracts are for or anything like that, coaches' contracts. So it's kind of hard to really have anything to talk about. So what I'm going to do is, Touchline was originally designed to teach you guys soccer, talk about soccer. So what I would like to do is, the next one I'm going to do is right between Christmas and New Year's. I'm going to plan it for right in there. Between now and then, send me tons of questions. I'm going to use it as somebody on Twitter suggested, and I'm going to actually use Brad Pierce's title for it. It's going to be called Soccer for Dummies episode. I'm going to answer every question you have. I will find the answers. I will figure it out. Give me time. I will figure it out, and I will have you an answer. That's it for tonight. Send those questions in. Hopefully I have that new system set up. If not, we'll revert back to this. Always looking for people that would love to join in. As you can see down here, we have the Twitter handles. You can send questions to either one of those. I'll answer them. Send them to Torn by Sports. Always go check out Torn by Sports. Lots of stuff going up there. A lot of BYU, a lot of Utah, a lot of Utah Jazz right now. The guys running the Utah Jazz part is doing phenomenal. RSL stuff going up. So if you guys need some time to kill, want something to read, Torn by Sports is your best option out there. I feel it is. So, great answering questions, great talking soccer with you guys tonight. That's everything I got, and we will see you guys right after Christmas. Happy holidays. Have fun go spend time with your families. Just have fun, guys. Talk to you later.